ليلوم الخوف والكوابيس والخيانة، ليلوم الخوف والكوابيس والخيانة، نحنا قدامنا الصباح، نحنا قدامنا الصباح.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gedamna Elsabah's Poetry for Sudan event. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that this event is being hosted here in Burulu on Sovereign Wajak Nungabuja, and that a lot of our participants are based in so-called Australia on unceded Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island lands. Gedamna Elsabah pays our respects to elders past and present, and to all First Nations people across this continent. As a group of settler refugees, we extend our solidarity with First Nations people across the continent and acknowledge that the systems which have allowed us relative safety here in this colony are the same ones which create dispossession and oppression. We recognize that sovereignty was never ceded. This is and always will be Aboriginal land. If you're based in so-called Australia, please, when you introduce yourself, tell us which country you're on. So Gedamna Elsabah is a cultural forum that's concerned with creative and cultural work and the edification of its intersections with civil political resistance in Sudan. This forum is committed to human rights issues and the effective role of the arts in politics and social change. Today's event is to raise awareness of the situation in Sudan and to practice active and radical solidarity. Today we'll be hearing from poets from across the world as they share their poems for Sudan. The situation in Sudan has been dire since two factions from the previous dictatorial regime began a power struggle on April 15th, 2003. The use of heavy weaponry in densely populated areas in Khartoum and other parts of Sudan has led to thousands of deaths, tens of thousands injured, and millions displaced, and massive amounts of destruction. The two generals leading this war against the Sudanese people, Al-Burhan and Hemeti, have had a history of violence and face numerous allegations of war crimes and human rights abuses. Together, these two generals carried out a military coup on the 25th of October, 2021, sabotaging the transitional Sudanese government that was a step towards democracy in the country. They undertook this coup using the Sudanese armed forces and the Sudanese Response Forces, which is a rebranding of the Janjaweed militias, which are the two forces currently battling in the densely populated areas. Currently, the Rapid Response Forces slash Janjaweed militias are using civilians as human shields, while the armed forces are using heavy artillery against the militias. The loss of civilian life has been catastrophic in all areas of Sudan. Sudan civilians at the moment cannot access medical cares as hospitals have been destroyed. There is little access to clean water, and there has been a catastrophic collapse of all infrastructure. The situation changes daily, and we see the issues that are arising daily. There has been mass internal displacements and also exits towards refugee pathways. And this event is mostly to focus on how art can be used as a force of testimony and awareness sharing. And we are very thankful for all of the artists who are joining us here today. Sudanese politics and art are not distinct things, they are one and the same. And so it's very fitting that we have this event. Elio Novelleo didn't write poetry until he was in his 50s, and it inevitably revolves around politics, science, and environmental and social issues and religion. God is a good sparring partner. He helps run the Perth Poetry Club each Saturday, and his MC role at the club encourages him to read other people's poetry.
Okay, that means I'll take it away. Thank you very much, Rafeif, and also thank you, Afeif, for inviting me. So I'm only going to read one poem, and it's a bit of an unusual one. It's a poem about garbage bins. Right now, when people ask me what the poem is about and I tell them what it's about, they don't believe me. And so I'm not going to tell you what the poem is about. You've got to work it out yourself. But in many respects, it is to the theme of why we're here tonight, to remember what's happening in Sudan and hope that a way can be found to stop the fighting, to solve the issues there. And this poem is my poem. It's about community and how it should and shouldn't behave. Okay, so it's entitled Sentinels of the Street. The garbage bins in my street stand to attention on Monday morning, dressed in uniform mission green, out there on parade in neat rows 1 metre from the curb. They stand perfectly still, straight back, proud posture. Not as attractive as those Dalek compost bins, a sore point that causes some upset, but steadfast nevertheless in their resolve to be sentinels of the street. If garbage bins could talk, what stories could they tell? Like who in the street, under cover of darkness, placed garbage in the neighbour's bin the night before? Who in the street is most wasteful? Who puts batteries and paint in their bin? Who drinks too much alcohol? The clink of bottles dobs them in. Whose household is into kinky things? No matter what the weather, the sentinels of the street stand to attention. Like worshippers at a Sunday service, they await deliverance, to be lifted up on high, exaltation via a garbage truck, a Gloria in excelsis, 'cause the week's work is done. But the jubilation quickly subsides as the parade is dismissed and the sentinels return to their usual posts with a deep emptiness inside, timely now for them to start their work again. Garbage bins. They shelter what we reject, house what we disown, with no discrimination or complaint. Just simple acts of charity and love. Without borders. Action, astronomers, artists without borders, architects, bikes, bankers without borders, braille, burners, chemists without borders, avocats sans frontières, clowns, ecologists, education without borders, engineers, geeks, gays without borders, farmers, kangaroo, knitters without borders, école sans frontières, librarians, lifeguards, love without borders, MBAs, mediators, medics without borders, ministries, monks, Muslims without borders, Médecins Sans Frontières, pirates, radio, reporters without borders, science, scientists, sociologists without borders, translators, teachers, words without borders, telecom sans frontières, war without borders, war within borders, war with borders, borders within war, guerre sans frontières, war out with borders, out war with borders, borders without war, without war, without borders, we can have peace.
Thank you so much for such a beautiful poem, Elio. And now it will be read by Abu Zayd.
بلا حدود. شعر إيليو نوفيلو. علماء فلك وفنانون بلا حدود، مهندسون، معماريون، دراجات، مصرفيون بلا حدود، برايل، حارقات، كيميائيون بلا حدود، أفوكات بلا حدود، مهرجون، علماء بيئة، تعليم بلا حدود، مهندسون، مهووسون، مثليون بلا حدود، مزارعون، كونغر، روابط بلا حدود، مدارس بلا حدود، أمناء مكتبات، رجال إنقاذ، حب بلا حدود، ماجستير في إدارة الأعمال، وسطاء وأطباء بلا حدود، وزارات ورهبان، مسلمون بلا حدود، منظمة أطباء بلا حدود، قراصنة، راديو، مراسلون بلا حدود، العلم والعلماء وعلماء الاجتماع بلا حدود، مترجمون، مدرسون، كلمات بلا حدود، تيليكوم بلا حدود، حرب بلا حدود، حرب داخل الحدود، حرب مع الحدود، حدود داخل الحرب، حرب بلا حدود، حرب مع الحدود، حدود داخل الحرب، حدود بلا حرب، بدون حرب بلا حدود، بلا حدود، بلا حدود يمكننا الحصول على السلام.
ليلهم الخوف والكوابيس والخيانة، ليلهم الخوف والكوابيس والخيانة، نحنا قدامنا الصباح، نحنا قدامنا الصباح.